G'day, my name is Chris and thanks for clicking on the link. In a sec you're about to see a shorter story that I produced and put out for my Patreons earlier this week. So if you want to support the channel, consider joining us over there. Otherwise, enjoy. My first story, and today is sadly going to be on the state of electric vehicles in Australia due to our fossil fuel loving politicians. For those overseas, here's like a quick history lesson for you. This guy, Scott Morrison, he's our Prime Minister and he loves coal. He brought some into Parliament one day and said this.
Mr. Speaker, this is coal. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared.
The Treasurer knows the rule on crops.
It's coal. It was dug up by men and women who work and live in the electorates of those who sit opposite.
His mate, Angus Taylor, I talk about him quite a bit. He's our Minister for Emission Reductions and Energy, and he hates wind turbines and basically does nothing. Best demonstrated by his almost 3-year late white paper on electric vehicles, which actually does nothing to support them and instead focuses on hybrids and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, because that's where the money lies. Lies. Yeah, he lies. Accurate, definitely. And so this last week in Australia, the federal opposition released its EV policy statement, which promises to legislate for a target of 50% EV sales by 2030 and to slash import tariffs and fringe benefit taxes on electric cars. This is significant, folks, because if these policies were adopted, from a financial perspective, getting an EV could be up to like $10,000 cheaper, meaning best case scenario, my MG ZS EV could cost close to maybe $30,000, and that would be a very attractive option of getting people out of internal combustion engine vehicles which pollute, cause health damage and all that, and into an electric vehicle. It would become like a no-brainer. Additionally, unlike Scotty from marketing, as we like to call him, and Mr. Do Nothing, Labor has also proposed targets like for EV adoption, but importantly, pollution regulation of 105 grams of CO2 per kilometre for light vehicles. That is still well below Europe, but we have to start somewhere, right? So the reason for this segment is we have federal Labor proposing some good stuff to support the adoption of EVs. Conversely, we have a state Labor government proposing a brand new tax on EVs to essentially disincentivize anybody from getting into any battery electric sort of vehicle. And I'll get to more of that soon. And conversely, we have a federal parliament, the ones who are actually in charge of the whole game, who have been saying on the one hand, yeah, nah, EVs are bad, they're going to ruin the weekend. And more recently, because of Labor putting out its proposed new policies, saying, yeah, we love them. But this is where they all come unstuck. Let me demonstrate.
No, I didn't ridicule that technology. That's good technology.
And I'll tell you what, it's not going to tow your trailer. It's not going to tow your boat.
No, I didn't ridicule that technology. That's good technology.
It's not going to get you out to your favourite camping spot with your family.
No, I didn't ridicule that technology. That's good technology.
Bill Shorten wants to end the weekend when it comes to his policy on electric vehicles.
No, I didn't ridicule that technology. That's good technology.
So he wants to say, see you later to the SUV.
Fun stuff, right? And then this is from a guy who's also mocked Tesla's big battery as being about as useful as a big banana or the big prawn. They're two iconic things in Australia, by the way, which are kind of like tourist attractions. Useless. Yeah, do they draw people in? Maybe. I've been to them, but I digress. Australia ranks 84th in the world in terms of fuel quality, meaning that car makers drop 20-year-old dirty engine types here, which pollute way more than equivalent cars in Europe. They mean high running costs for motorists and bigger margins for car makers, all at the expense of our environment and, well, consumers. We are the laughing stock of the world, and so with that sad introduction out the way, I want to update you on the Victorian EV tax situation in a segment I like to call Promises is a segment I like to do from time to time about what our politicians are and generally not doing in the space of getting us all to cleaner and greener ways of operating and moving. A few weeks ago, the Victorian Labor government passed through the lower parliament, that's actually the lower house, so to speak, a new tax on battery electric vehicles, but not all of them. If you drive a battery electric car, a pure EV, from July 1 this year, you'll be paying 2.5 cents per kilometre travelled. For owners of plug-in hybrids, the sort that actually have both the petrol engine as well as a battery component, and they can do pure electric kilometres, you will be paying 2 cents per kilometre travelled. The Victorian government says this tax is about ensuring everyone pays their share of road user taxes. It doesn't work out. Let me explain. Let's pretend I drive 12,000 kilometres a year. If I had a conventional petrol or diesel car, I would consume about, at least 696 litres of fuel. Presently, motorists pay to the federal government 43 cents per litre in fuel excise. So per year, that means I would contribute to tax revenue of about $300. I have an MG ZS EV, which also does, let's say, 12,000 kilometres per year. Under this new tax, I'll pay my share of about, $300. Seems fair, right? Okay, but here's where it all goes wrong. If I have a plug-in hybrid car and do those same 12,000 kilometres, I'm going to be consuming about, 468 litres of fuel, meaning a potential tax bill of $200 in fuel excise. But hang on a second, I've also now got to be paying, from July 1 this year, 2 cents per kilometre travelled, meaning in addition to the $200 in fuel excise, I need to offer up $240 in this new battery electric tax. My total tax bill now is $442. Right now, viewers at home will be saying, what the? Oh, it gets even worse. And here's where the fairness argument goes out the window. Now I'm driving my fancy non-plug-in hybrid. This bad boy has got a tiny battery, but is capable of some really efficient driving. Filling up at the Bowser means that I put about 540 litres of fuel into it per year and will pay just $233 in tax. So let me just rewind and say that again. For 12,000 kilometres of travel, 3 different cars of roughly the same size and weight all pay different amounts. But 2 of these pollute more and pay less tax. So not everyone is paying their fair share of taxes, are they? No. I haven't even bothered delving into fuel excise, how the biggest polluters, that is trucks and large transport, pay little to nothing. In fact, they get tax credits. That is like money back from the government, and yet they do the most damage to our roads. You see, in some groundbreaking research done in the 1960s, and still holding true today, the generalized fourth power law states that a vehicle weight increases its impact on roads, and it doesn't necessarily increase in a linear fashion. No, it doubles, it triples, and so forth. So, as an example, take a 2-ton car versus a 10-wheeler 40-ton truck. Using the 4-power equation, we first work out the weight per axle. And for simplicity, let's assume that the car and truck, that the weight is evenly divided across all axles. So for our 2-ton car, that means 1 ton per axle. And for our truck, 4 tons per axle. What we do then is we take 4, divide that by 1, and we put that to the power of 4. That is to say, 4 times by 4 by 4 by 4. This gives you 256 times the amount of damage to our roads compared to the car. Do they pay 256 more times in taxes? No, they don't. They most likely don't pay any tax whatsoever. So again, we have federal Labor proposing to help Australia transition to EVs, state Labor doing the exact opposite, saying that battery electric vehicles need to pay for their fair share of road use, And we have a federal government who suddenly support EVs, yet are doing nothing about it and playing dumb when it comes to petrol taxes and how unfair they are, how outdated they are, and the fact remains that they are essentially going to leave them high and dry with very little revenue. I ask you, does this tax seem fair? Does it seem reasonable? If you drive a plug-in hybrid, I would be pretty annoyed right now. Ultimately, all sides of government aren't addressing the fundamental problem here. Fuel excise isn't keeping up with fuel-efficient vehicles. Those non-plug-in hybrids are paying very little tax. Heavy transport, which damages our roads the most, aren't paying their fair share of road costs. And neither are helping out to improve the air in which we all breathe. So, folks, this is where you come in. Speak to your local and federal member of parliament. Let them know the issue of fuel excise, incentives for EVs, and how climate change and emissions are linked to vehicle use. For my Victorian viewers, this legislation has only passed the lower house of parliament and is not guaranteed. Labor doesn't hold a majority in the upper house of parliament, and 11 of the 12 crossbench members have already vowed to not actually support this bill. They're the ones who actually hold the balance of power. So, right now, before May, because that's when this legislation is going to be heard in the Senate, we need to be speaking to all sides of politics and letting them know all of this information that I've just detailed. Get busy, guys. Get busy, girls. You got to call, you got to write, you got to email, you got to get in front of them. Anything to help turn this messy, upside-down, crazy country of ours and put us on the right path towards better forms of transport that go a long way to address our nation's health, economy, and climate obligations.